Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Annie and this is Unity Consciousness. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I'd like to welcome our new subscribers and also thank those of you who are returning for this week's energy update. My apologies for being a day late. I had a significant issue over the weekend that I needed to take care of. So anyway, back on track today. Let's talk about yesterday's energy really quickly before we move ahead. We did speak about it in the last video nonetheless. Yesterday we had the Sun, which is in the sign of Pisces, squared Jupiter, which is in Gemini, and that spoke about overindulgence, overconfidence, overreaching on certain things. So if you had a great deal of confidence, perhaps even over the weekend, it's possible that there were some ramifications relative to that. But more importantly, yesterday, Mercury conjunct the North Node, then Neptune, then entered shadow. So this to me speaks, I knew I mentioned last week that we'd speak a little bit more about Mercury retrograde, so let's expand on that right now. That energy of Mercury conjuncting the North Node and then Neptune, then going into its retrograde shadow, really it speaks about trying to find our compass with all this energy. It is a personal planet that's going to be going from Pisces into Aries. Actually today, this morning, that same Mercury went from Pisces into Aries. And that retrograde cycle is going to have Mercury going back from Aries after it gets to, I believe, 9 degrees. Then it starts its retrograde and then will go back into Pisces. So this is that integration that was already spoken about relative to the end of the zodiac and the first sign of the zodiac, 12th house, first house energy, and understanding our true essence from a mercurial standpoint, whether that's thought processes, the actions that we take, our thoughts, those type things. So we are trying to find our compass. This, with the North Node being conjunct and then Neptune creating perhaps a little bit of illusion or disillusionment or a little fog or perhaps that veil. Trying to find our compass. Like I mentioned, it was great for creativity, especially Mercury conjunct Neptune. Excellent for creativity. Not so good for discernment or details. So things are a bit foggy, but recognize that Mercury is in retrograde shadow. Any topics that come up now and for the remainder of the week, and Mercury is very active again this week, they will be revisited because Mercury is going to go retrograde. So let's talk about the dates. So Mercury entered shadow over the weekend, and then today actually moved into Aries. We'll talk about that energy in just a minute. Then on the 15th of March, Mercury will go retrograde at 9 degrees of Aries and start backtracking back to Pisces, and will re-enter Pisces on the 29th of the month, and that's just before planet Neptune goes into the sign of Aries, which is a very pivotal day. So on the 29th, Mercury goes back into Pisces, and then on the 7th of April, Mercury is going to station to go direct at 26 degrees of Pisces, and then move forward and re-enter Aries on the 16th of April, and then completely out of shadow by the 26th of April. So make note of those dates, but be aware the situations and circumstances that come up now, the conversation, the thoughts we have, the actions relative to those thoughts are going to be revisited. Signing contracts, purchasing electronics, those type things, just be mindful that they'll need to be renegotiated, right? We do also have Venus retrograde occurring, so we've got a hold on cosmetic procedures if there are elective anyway, and revamping our wardrobe. So this really is a time of reflection. Just again, be aware of that. Mercury being in that shadow means we will be revisiting. Now, what I like about this, Mercury entered Aries earlier today. Boy, did I feel the energy shift. It's a very bold, direct energy. It's communications with confidence. We want to make sure that we remain in our essence. Remember, Aries energy should be centered in the self, not all about the self, not self-centered, we'll say. Be mindful of outbursts. A family member was out recently over the weekend and literally saw a car stopped in the middle of the road, and there was a child and a teenager just screaming from outside the vehicle at his parent in the vehicle. These outbursts could be common with Mercury being in the sign of Aries, and especially with a lot of the combative energy. It can be very impatient, it can be very combative, but the more we stay centered in ourselves and know our true essence, the likelihood of those outbursts are going to be mitigated. The good use or possible good use of this energy is spontaneity, creativity that just springs forth out of nowhere, seemingly. It's mental and communications perspective that, like I said, can be very innovative. It's the spark of inspiration. It may not be very grounded, but it is that spark that gets things going. Just be mindful that we probably want to resolve right now, right this very minute. So again, be patient with that. Then once Mercury gets into Aries, on Wednesday of this week, Mercury is going to sextile Pluto, which is in Aquarius. Love this energy. It's a great vibe, a really, really good vibe. So you have that spark, that communication, that bold communication and assertive communication that is now harmonizing in sextile, do something to get something, with Pluto in Aquarius. The authentic, know your true essence energy, asking us to take action, or communications will say, for the greater good of all. This is one of 3 meetings because, as I mentioned, Mercury is in shadow. So they are going to sextile again on the 25th. While Mercury is retrograde, Mercury is going to come back to sextile with Pluto, and then again on the 20th of April, where Mercury is direct but in shadow. So as these topics come up this week on Wednesday, make note of them. I'm not sure that you want to take firm action on them, but I do believe it's do something to get something. There could be a spark of inspiration that creates some transformation that's for the greater good of all, that comes from a place of authenticism. Just be mindful that we'll be revisiting these topics again, okay? Then on Saturday of this week, we've got more very positive energy. The sun, which is in the sign of Pisces, is going to trine Mars in Cancer. This is where the Mars retrograde season messages are starting to be integrated, and we are being invigorated by that integration. Any of the pivots that took us out of our ego and got us back into heart-centered consciousness, it's aligning with our creativity and our spirituality. We can take action on things with a great compassionate understanding, and we can really feel our emotions now and let our emotions be our compass, so to speak. Well, that's all I have for this week. Next week we have our first eclipse, and it is going to be very powerful. Eclipse energy always is. It is the second out of seven eclipses in the health service axis, where we'll have specificity and discernment on one end, and mysticism and beyond the veil on the other end of the spectrum, and asking us to kind of step away from worry and step into the divine surrender, which is where the North Node is in Pisces. So anyway, that's next week's energy. This week is getting us ready for it. I decided to use the Animal Spirit deck this week. Love this deck. Kim Krans, and seeking some guidance on how do you best use this mercurial energy, Mercury retrograde, this conversation in sextile with Pluto, and then the Sun and Mars trine. And the card that jumped out was the elk. I like this. This is earth energy. It's very grounding, kind of Capricorn energy, but let's read what the book has to say. Stable, resilient, headstrong, the father. The great elk represents the earth element in its masculine form. This means it provides underlying support and stability amidst life's many changes. An elk personality, whether male or female, is fully established in themselves and knows their core values. They become known and respected for acting in ways that uphold those values. Sometimes the elk's ego can become inflated, but for the most part, they make damn good fathers, mothers, lovers, and friends. The world needs more elk energy. When in balance, this is supportive, kind, and consistent. When it's out of balance, this card sees it as pretentious, high, and mighty. If that's the case and you want to bring things back into balance, eat and drink more consciously. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. If you like this video, please do click the like button. If you want to help support me and help support others, please do co-create with me and share this video with them. If you have any comments or suggestions, please post them in the comment box below. I truly do appreciate you joining me today and being patient as well as I dealt with a health crisis of my own. I hope you have a fabulous week of this wonderful mercurial energy. Namaste.